If you've ever looked at your phone hoping she'd text back, replayed the conversation over and over in your head, wondered what you said wrong, this video is for you. Because what if I told you, rejection was never the end, it was the invitation. Men today are losing control because they've been trained to hand over their power in silence. You've been taught to chase, to prove your worth, to convince her you're good enough. And every time you do, you kill your attraction. You're not here to chase women. You're here to become a man so undeniable they can't ignore you. This is the real truth. Rejection is a gift. Because if you play it right, that rejection turns into curiosity, then desire, and finally, regret. But not for you, for her. This video is about making rejection work for you. It's about using timeless Stoic principles so you become the man she and the world can't stop thinking about. If you're ready to transform rejection into attraction, comment, "I choose power." Number 1. Rejection isn't personal. You sit there staring at the screen, wondering why she stopped replying. You replay every moment, what you said, how you said it, if you came off too strong or not strong enough. You analyze her last message like it holds secret code. But the deeper truth, the one no one dares say out loud, is this. You were never rejected for being you. You were rejected for the version of yourself she decided to see in that moment, filtered through her emotions, her insecurities, her boredom, her desire for control, her past baggage, and maybe even her twisted need for power. What you're calling rejection might have just been a game she plays for attention. And the moment you beg for clarity, you lose more than her. You lose yourself. Because now you've made her opinion your truth, when in reality, she never knew the full you. She only saw the man who revealed himself too soon, too emotionally, too eagerly, without first asking if she even deserved that version of you. Most men break here. They internalize that dismissal and carry it into their identity like a scar, thinking they aren't enough, when in reality they gave too much to someone who hadn't earned it. Rejection, when it comes from someone who barely knows you, is not feedback, it's noise. But if you treat it like truth, it starts shaping your posture, your energy, your beliefs. You start holding back in life, not just with women, but in career, health, ambition, and connection. That's how deep it cuts. The rejection you think is personal has nothing to do with your worth. It's a reflection of timing, of perception, of emotional immaturity, and of the chaos inside her that she offloaded onto you. Let that sink in. She might have ghosted you because she got a dopamine hit from another guy. She might have said you're too much because she's afraid of depth. She might have claimed she's not ready, when the truth is, she only wants men she can't control. None of that is about you. But if you're not grounded, you'll make it about you. And that's when she wins. Because now, you're chasing closure from someone who didn't even deserve a seat in your life to begin with. You want to win? Stop trying to prove your worth to anyone who didn't recognize it on their own. You don't become valuable by convincing someone you are. You become valuable by walking like you are. Rejection becomes powerless when you no longer assign emotional weight to opinions that fluctuate with mood swings and social media addiction. The Stoic man doesn't react, he reflects. He observes, then adjusts. He doesn't beg, he rebuilds. He doesn't sink, he sharpens. That's your path, not to win her back, but to rise so high she has to watch your growth from the shadows she chose. Use the pain. Let it teach you where you overgave, where you overexposed, where you compromised. And then use that awareness to become selective, precise, unapologetic. From now on, your energy is currency. Don't give it away for free to people who can't even hold it. You want transformation? Start here. Write down everything you wanted her to see in you, every trait you wish she appreciated. Now, make it your mission to become that man so powerfully that her validation becomes irrelevant. You're not here to be chosen, you're here to choose. And this rejection is not your defeat, it's your confirmation. You are not for everyone, and thank God for that. Because now you get to build, rise, and become so undeniable that the next woman won't have the option to overlook you. She'll either recognize what you are or be left behind. She's no longer part of your future. And now the question is, what kind of future are you about to build? Because the blueprint already exists. If you felt every word of this message in your chest, if it spoke to the pain you've been carrying in silence and lit something inside you that's ready to rise, then the Stoic relationship blueprint was written for you. This isn't just a book, it's a weapon, a powerful, timeless guide forged from Stoic principles that will rewire how you see yourself, how you handle rejection, how you navigate love, and how you take full control of your emotional power. And now, it's even easier to absorb. The audiobook version is available. You can listen while walking, working out, driving, or on your daily grind. Let it sink into your system until these principles become who you are. It's linked in the comments below, and once you own it, it's yours forever. This isn't a one-time boost. It's a permanent shift. A resource you can return to anytime life tests you, anytime weakness creeps in, anytime you feel yourself slipping. Get the book. Own the knowledge. Reclaim your life. Number 2. Cold silence. It's harder than words. You feel the urge to respond, to say something, to explain yourself, to ask why she faded, why she changed, why someone who once replied in seconds now takes hours or ignores you altogether. That tension inside your chest, it's not weakness, it's energy with no direction. But how you respond in this moment defines everything. Most men fold, they break in half and chase, they double text, they post subliminal quotes, they call, they vent, they lose their grip. And in doing so, they confirm every suspicion she had about your value, that your emotions control you, that your self-worth depends on her attention, that your power is paper thin. But the man who understands the weight of restraint doesn't say a word. He goes quiet, not to manipulate, but to redirect his focus where it belongs, back on himself. Because she expects noise, she expects explanation, she expects to be begged, validated, and assured. That's how most men move. But when you offer nothing but cold, precise absence, it shocks her, because it breaks the script. It creates a gap in her reality, a question that loops in her mind like a silent alarm. Why isn't he chasing me? And that question is louder than any paragraph you could write. In a world of instant gratification, people panic when they're ignored by those who used to care. She expects reaction. When you give her none, she's forced to think, and thinking creates discomfort. She replays her decision. She wonders if she made a mistake, but more importantly, she starts seeing you not as the man she discarded, but the man who doesn't wait to be chosen. That's when your silence becomes dominance, because it shifts the entire dynamic. You are no longer proving your worth. You are displaying it, wordlessly. You stop being accessible. You become unpredictable. She doesn't know if you're hurting or healing, if you're angry or indifferent. That uncertainty is magnetic, but it only works if it's real. Silence without growth is just sulking. Silence without action is just hiding. But silence with evolution, that's what makes you unforgettable. That's what turns absence into authority. She might smile in public. She might act unfazed. But deep down, she's watching. And what she sees matters more than what you say. If your silence is backed by work, discipline, gym, purpose, creativity, progress, then your name starts carrying weight again. Not because you asked to be remembered, but because you made forgetting you impossible. That's the formula. You don't speak, you build, you don't chase, you rise, you don't explain, you upgrade. And when the time comes, if it comes, she'll have to face a version of you that doesn't even need the conversation anymore. The man who stayed quiet long enough to outgrow the version of himself that would have begged. You owe her no clarity. You owe yourself a life so refined that her absence stops being a wound and becomes a favor. The less you speak, the more weight your actions hold. And in the end, it's not the man who shouts the loudest that gets heard. It's the one who disappears with purpose and comes back unrecognizable. So when she pulls back, don't ask questions, don't vent to your friends, don't chase, just vanish, quietly, sharply, without a trace of desperation, and watch how everything around you starts rearranging itself to accommodate your growth. This isn't about revenge. It's about remembering who you were before you handed over the steering wheel of your self-worth. That version of you is waiting to return, and your silence is how you unlock him. Number 3. Win in silence. She expects noise. That's the truth most men never realize until it's too late. She expects messages, reactions, signs of weakness masked as attempts to reconcile. She expects to feel your energy still chasing her, even if your words don't say it. That's how she knows she still controls the frame. And most men deliver it to her on a silver platter. They think silence is enough, but they still watch her stories. They still ask mutual friends about her. They still hope she notices them grinding in the background. But that's not real silence. That's performance. That's attention in disguise. And she senses it. Because women have one undeniable skill. They can feel when a man hasn't truly let go. They know when you're pretending to be detached while secretly craving their recognition. And that fake detachment doesn't win her respect. It confirms her power. Real silence, the kind that wins, is internal first. It's when you stop needing anything from her. Not closure, not validation, not acknowledgement. It's when your focus shifts so deeply inward that even if she texted, even if she apologized, even if she begged, you're no longer the man who needs that moment. You win when your emotional center is no longer located outside of yourself. You win when you stop performing your healing and actually live it. Because silence isn't passive, it's a power move. But only if it's backed by actual evolution. When you disappear, it must be into the kind of work that sharpens you. Into building a body that reflects discipline. Into crafting a routine so dialed in that you don't have time to think about who pulled away. Into chasing purpose, not people. Into becoming so locked into your mission that your emotions fall in line behind your vision, not the other way around. That's the silence that wins. Because it doesn't scream for attention. It magnetizes it. It doesn't pretend to not care. It genuinely doesn't. It doesn't hope she comes back. It knows that whether she does or not, nothing changes. And when you reach that place, everything changes. She will feel it. The shift in your energy, the drop in emotional availability, the fact that she's no longer your focal point, and it won't sit right with her, because she's used to men orbiting her, even after being dismissed. When you stop orbiting, she starts questioning. Did I misjudge him? Did I lose something rare? Those questions grow roots in her mind, but they only grow if your silence is authentic. So how do you get there? You do the work. You get up earlier. You train harder. You speak less. You choose better people. You set non-negotiable standards. You build your value to the point that her opinion no longer fits into your equation. And when you do all of this, not to win her back, but to win yourself back, you unlock the final form of silence, indifference, not bitterness, not revenge, just calm, unshakable presence. The kind that doesn't flinch when her name comes up, the kind that doesn't fantasize about her return, the kind that knows she was never your prize, you were hers. And if she couldn't see that before, it's too late now. Because you're gone. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're in a new chapter, a higher timeline. One where she no longer fits because the man you've become doesn't settle for being a second option. This is how you win in silence. Not by disappearing and waiting, but by disappearing and transforming. You don't retreat, you evolve. You don't pause your life, you press harder on the gas. And the beauty is, the more you focus on this journey, the less you care about who notices. Because you're not doing it to be seen, you're doing it because the version of you that needed her no longer exists. He died in the silence, and in his place rose someone she can't access anymore, even if she wanted to. That's the kind of silence that wins. Number 4, turn rejection to favor. There's a shift that happens the moment you stop taking rejection as a personal loss and start using it as a calculated advantage. That moment when your mind finally accepts that she wasn't the one who got away. She was the one who showed you exactly where you needed to level up. Not because her opinion has power, but because her absence became the mirror you were too afraid to look into before. Most men see rejection as proof that they weren't good enough, but the man who grows from it understands something deeper. It was never about being good enough. It was about being too available, too soon, for someone who hadn't earned that access. And that's the bitter truth most won't say out loud. You handed her the full version of you before she did anything to deserve it. You gave her emotional loyalty, attention, and sometimes even resources, hoping she'd see your value, but all she saw was need. That's why she walked. Not because you lacked value, but because you made her feel like the center of your world when she hadn't done anything to earn that position. And this is the harsh lesson rejection teaches if you're willing to sit with the pain long enough. You don't get rejected because you weren't enough. You get rejected because you gave everything to someone who hadn't proven they could respect it. This is how you flip the script. You use that rejection like a blacksmith uses heat, turning soft metal into sharp weaponry. You analyze it without emotion. You examine your past moves, not to shame yourself, but to correct your patterns. Where did you lose frame? Where did you chase instead of pull back? Where did you seek validation instead of command respect? These aren't questions to hurt you, they're questions to rebuild you. Because when you get rejected and decide to rise, you become dangerous. Not out of spite, out of precision, out of strategy, out of clarity. You stop letting your emotions drive your actions. You stop falling in love with potential. You stop putting effort into situations that haven't shown real investment in you. Instead, you begin to treat your presence like a reward. Your energy becomes earned, not assumed. Your standards become immovable. Your time becomes sacred. And in that shift, you change everything, not just with women, but with life. You move with the confidence of a man who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. And here's the real irony. The moment you stop chasing the ones who left, they often come back. Not because they miss you, but because the energy they used to control now controls them. But by the time that happens, you're already gone. You're evolved. And they're stuck trying to reconnect with a version of you that no longer exists. That's what it means to turn rejection into favor. You don't hope for reconciliation. You don't script imaginary conversations. You don't stalk her feed. You use every ounce of that pain as fuel. You build the body you neglected. You master your routines. You invest in your future with a level of obsession that makes everything else irrelevant. You stop playing the game to win her back and start playing the game to become the man who never waits to be chosen again. And that transformation is undeniable because it shows in how you walk, in how you speak, in how you move through rooms. You become harder to impress, not because you're cold, but because you've seen what happens when you lower your standards for temporary comfort. You become more intentional, more focused, more ruthless with your time, not out of bitterness, but because you now understand the price of handing it over to someone who doesn't see the value. And slowly, your circle upgrades, your discipline strengthens, your peace becomes non-negotiable. This is how you turn rejection into leverage, into clarity, into a gift so rare that looking back feels like reading the journal of a man you used to be, but no longer recognize. So don't waste another second hoping she'll regret losing you. Use this to become a man she wouldn't even get the chance to meet now. Let her memory watch you become everything she claimed you weren't. And let that be the quiet victory that rewrites your story, not for her, but for the version of you who almost gave up. He's watching. Don't let him down. Number 5. Build a life she regrets leaving. There's a truth most men never embrace because it requires brutal honesty and extreme accountability. You don't rise by getting her back. You rise by becoming the version of yourself she couldn't even keep. And this isn't about revenge. It's about evolution. It's about realizing that the pain she caused was never meant to crush you. It was meant to redirect you toward your purpose. But that only happens if you stop thinking in terms of relationships and start thinking in terms of legacy. She left? Good. Now ask yourself, what kind of man did she walk away from? Not to shame yourself, but to sharpen yourself. Because if she left and your world fell apart, you weren't grounded in purpose. You were grounded in her, and that's why everything collapsed. So what do? You don't beg. You don't plead. You don't turn to temporary fixes or distractions. You sit in the silence and you study yourself. You identify every weakness that made you overextend. You write down the ways you gave too much, too soon, too emotionally. Then you make a decision. From this point forward, your life is the mission. Your body becomes evidence of your discipline. Your finances reflect your control. Your words carry weight because they're backed by integrity. Your days are structured, not reactive. Your circle becomes tighter, sharper, more aligned with your vision. You surround yourself with people who don't just talk about ambition, they live it. And your time, it becomes untouchable, because now your time is currency, and you don't spend it on people who aren't investing in your vision. That's the shift. When you build a life so rich in direction that her exit becomes irrelevant, not because you didn't care, but because you now see it for what it was, the universe clearing space for something better, yourself. And as you grow, you notice something. You stop needing to be understood. You stop explaining your past. You stop posting to be seen. You move quietly, intentionally. You build your business, master your craft, get in peak physical shape, study relentlessly, and create a future so magnetic that she starts watching from a distance. But this time, there's nothing to come back to, because the version of you who would have taken her back doesn't exist anymore. He died the day you chose discipline over desire, the day you prioritized mission over emotion, the day you realized that your purpose doesn't bend for anyone who walks away. That's when you become dangerous, because now every morning you wake up, there's no confusion. You know what you're chasing, you know what you're building, you know who you are, and that certainty becomes your attraction. Women feel it, people feel it. And ironically, the same person who thought they could replace you now sees that there's no replacement. You've become too refined, too focused, too high value for someone who only valued you when you were uncertain of yourself. And here's the final truth. You're not building this life to prove her wrong. You're building it because you've finally decided to stop betraying yourself. You're no longer negotiating your standards for temporary companionship. You're no longer shrinking to be liked. You're no longer explaining your ambition to people who operate from comfort. You are now the man who chooses his circle, who dictates his schedule, who filters his energy like gold. And with that mindset, you attract differently. You command respect differently. You lose interest in people who waste time, energy, or potential. And that's when it all comes full circle. When she realizes the man she walked away from has become the man every woman now desires, but none can control. That's the life you build, not to impress her, not to win her back, but to make her absence irrelevant, to become so elevated that if she ever does return, she doesn't find a man waiting, she finds a man unreachable. A man who has leveled up so far that her apology can't reach the threshold anymore. And that, my friend, is the kind of regret you don't have to speak about, because it screams every time she sees your name and realizes she's no longer part of your future. If you're tired of being the man who gets overlooked, undervalued, and discarded like you never existed, then today is the day you stop begging for validation and start building the life that makes them regret ever letting you go. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not her, not society, and definitely not the lies you've been fed about what it means to be a man. But you can save yourself, starting now. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men is more than a book. It's a weapon crafted for men who are done being weak, filled with timeless Stoic principles that will reshape your mind, your relationships, and your entire life. And now you can listen to it, anytime, anywhere, on a walk, in the gym, while you rebuild the version of you they'll never get back. The audiobook is available now, linked in the comments. If you're ready to rise, comment, "I choose power," like this video, and subscribe to help wake up more men before they waste another year chasing what should have been walking away from them. Don't let this moment pass. Own the knowledge. Change your life.